The stage is filled with a familiar set of melodies. Yet, the performers responsible for this are from 11 different countries, comprising the world's first traditional Asian orchestra. In this organized chaos of beats and melodies, this ensemble somehow creates beautiful harmony. With over 80 performers and 52 types of traditional instruments, the ASEAN Korea Orchestra serves as a melting pot of tradition and variety, and is now ready to take on the world in unity. Instrumentalists from 11 Asian countries make their way to Korea.
Hello, Korea. 안녕하세요.
Amidst the hearty welcome, the performers get on the bus that awaits them. They may have just met, but the performers are brimming with excitement. The theater where the workshop performance takes place will serve as the base camp. As soon as they unload their luggage, the performers head over to the orientation.
There are 52 instruments. They are all separate. We see families of instruments, but the composers who have been struggling with doing some concepts know that you need to list down 52 lines, and that will make it the biggest orchestral score in the world.
First up, the orientation of each instrument that will be used in the performance. The feeling of curiosity and interest arises as each instrument plays a familiar set of notes. Instruments like the tabla are well known, but it's another matter to figure out the instruments for the ensemble piece. The orchestra also boasts 5 Korean traditional instruments. The distinctive nature of Korean melodies can be best described as quivering.
And in that case, the question is, can you play natural note without bending? Because when you press it hard, you have a tendency to produce bending note. So can you run like natural note without no embellishment?
This time, the notes do not quiver, which presents a whole new set of possibilities. This orchestra features an astounding 52 instruments. They can be grouped in a number of categories, from string instruments that can be plucked or bowed, to woodwinds and even percussions. The sheer variety of instruments for this ensemble far surpasses that of Western orchestras, which contain about 15.
서양 음악보다 더 깊이 그 찬란한 음악 역사들을 가지고 있으면서도 우리가 함께 모여서 이렇게 같이 연주할 수 있는 그러한 기회가 없었습니다. 맨 처음에 모이는 거기 때문에 음악에 좀 어려움이 있더라도 우리가 서로 맞춰 나가면 정말 그 역사 깊은 아시아 음악이 새롭게 태어날 수 있는 그런 기회를 우리가 만들었다는 데 큰 의미가 있습니다.
Then, how did this orchestra, which involves 11 countries from ASEAN regions, come about? It originated from a meeting that dealt with a commemorative piece for the opening of the Asia Culture Complex in 2008. As the main content for the complex, which will serve as the hub for future Asian cultures, the ASEAN Korea Traditional Orchestra was a perfect fit.
이 아시아 문화 전당은 아시아의 문화 교류와 또 아시아 문화를 창조하는 어떤 교두보, 거점 역할을 하게 될 겁니다. 그래서 다양한 아시아 문화의 어떤 문화물이 고여드는 저수지 역할을 아시아 문화 전당이 하게 될 거고, 그걸 토대로 해서 문화 콘텐츠 산업을 키워나가는 어떤 발전소 역할을 하는 아주 중요한 기능을 갖게 될 겁니다.
Once the decision had been made to proceed with this exciting venture, it quickly escalated to bring in all kinds of Asian music in one place, which then evolved into forming an orchestra specifically for this. This comes with the goal of surpassing the Korea-China-Japan Orchestra as the carrier of Asian cultures, aiming at the global market with a fusion of traditional music. To expedite this process, the committee began visiting 11 Asian countries in search of possibilities. The plan started with the goal of forming the orchestra in 1 year, with the completion taking place in 10 years. First, the committee needed to gather up information on traditional music and instruments of various Asian countries.
6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, double speed.
Most of these instruments were encountered for the very first time, and their playing methods seemed strange as well. But amazingly, these instruments shared a common bond. Amidst the freedom of sounds lied a distinctive cultural sound that could only be derived from Asia. And even with traditional Asian music, some instruments were modernized to blend in with a contemporary ensemble, while others opted to keep it traditional. After a month's worth of extensive research, the committee finally discovered the possibility of a harmonious union of Asian music.
And the future will be how the orchestra will look like, whether it would expand or become more, more informed, and also what kind of concerts it will do. So, for example, now we are hoping that all the ASEAN countries will begin thinking of inviting the orchestra to their country. The main issue here now is how do we play together?
But once the process of combining these instruments into an orchestra took place, a number of problems began to surface.
It's very high, and the sounds will like.
Most Asian instruments are soloist instruments, which means strong expressive notes that can cause sounds to dissipate when played as an ensemble. The solution was to add a bass instrument, and so it was decided to increase the number of ajangs, a Korean instrument.
I think we have many xylophones and gong system. It could be very difficult to control in one orchestra.
The next problem was with the case of traditionality. As the ensemble focused on keeping the tradition intact, it resulted in an overflow of xylophones. A bevy of Southeast Asian instruments are xylophones, which posed a problem for the orchestra.
이 오케스트라 안에서 똑같은 기능을 하는 악기가 이렇게 치는 악기가 수없이 많다는 것은 대단한 핸디캡이 될 수 있거든요. 근데 이제 지금 저희 악단이 이제 그런 편성이 이루어져 있는 상태죠.
That wasn't all. Traditional Asian instruments use pentatonic scales, but they all produce slightly different notes, even under the same scale. It was time for a revision.
How many strings? 몇 줄이나 있어요?
About 36.
33줄. 그러면 한 줄에
Many
몇
time
개씩?
ago, about 100.
연주 한번 해주세요. You play.
A Vietnamese instrument that strikes metal strings with two rubber sticks.
Why?
Its musical scale, range of notes, and volume all pose problems.
Another country similar instrument?
In Singapore, we have similar.
Chinese and
Cambodian also very similar to that. The Thai also have similar instrument.
Even with the preparatory research, these problems were bound to arise.
Quest play.
Yeah.
An instrument with a high range of notes, like the danbo, has to be rearranged to find the right set of notes for the musical piece.
Is it?
Only one strings.
Yeah. Yes, only one.
Still.
Yeah.
They even resort to playing the instrument themselves, concentrating on the notes as they edit the arrangement of the piece.
Okay. Very good. Good instruments. 최소한의 공통분모만 찾아서 합주할 수 있는 그 가능성을 좀 해보는 거예요. 그러니까 이분들이 you music play.
My music.
You play. 오케이. 이렇게 이제 자기네 음악을 이렇게 표현하는 데는 너무 훌륭한 악기인데 우리가 한 아세안 오케스트라를 하면서 전부 합주하고자 해서 혹시나 이런 특색들이 없어질까 봐 염려를 하면서 최대한 전통악기 그대로 있는 데에서 공통분모만 찾아서 우리가 합주를 해보려고 하는데 한 아세안 오케스트라의 목적이 있고
After a few days of struggling with the piece, the instrumentalists opted for a break. A member finds his old picture in full display. While these performers are all legends of traditional music in their own field, they resort to being like kids in a candy store when experiencing Korean traditional culture. Today's where the 52 instruments perform on stage for the first time. They are playing a familiar Korean piece called Kweijina Chingching.
Okay, fortissimo, hey, and...
But as the tempo speeds up, the sound quickly loses its focus. The composers began to wear a concerned look.
1, 2, 1, and...
Even with the composer trying desperately to keep the tempo intact, this orchestra featuring a bevy of soloists and traditional musicians lost track as they tried to familiarize themselves with a new score and a new conductor.
지금 무대 위에 계신 연주자, 이 많은 연주자가 그만큼의 에너지를 뽑아내야지 객석에서는 감동을 할 것입니다. 그렇게 자신 있는 연주, 에너지 있는 연주를 하기 위해서는 조금 더 여러분들이 이 곡에 대한 각자의 어떤 해석과 연습이 조금 더 필요할 것 같습니다.
These are all incredible instrumentalists that are unfamiliar with the Western scales. The conductor decides to instill confidence in them by coaching them individually.
Rhythmically, it is very interesting. A lot of rhythm going on, a lot of nice rhythm patterns going on that I usually do not play. Yes.
So technical problem is difficult. For me, it's difficult, very difficult. Tuning is very hard. Not same Indonesian tuning.
Still, the conflicts remain. Can this performance actually come to fruition? That night, the Vietnamese performers are preparing their own dinner.
This food, Vietnam name is bắp cải luộc.
The irresistibly delicious aroma soon brought the Cambodian performers into the party.
You want mom? Yeah, of course.
They seem quite envious of their traditional menu. The food brought a hint of Asian familiarity, much like the music they played earlier that day. A rare traditional feast brings smiles to everyone.
Delicious?
Rất là ngon, very delicious.
Why?
Because I'm hungry now. We're hungry now.
We are very hungry.
It's now time for the workshop performance to take place on stage. The performers, dressed in traditional clothes, begin to sit in their spots, ready to perform. As excitement fills the stage, the performers begin to sing. This is a special, meaningful performance that is dedicated to the multicultural families that are in the audience. The quiet yet refined performance strikes a chord with the audience, with the music melting away their pain and sorrow. A great ensemble is capable of doing such things. The efforts of becoming a united front by the orchestra was definitely felt by the audience. This was the moment where the seemingly impossible task of forming a traditional orchestra finally came to fruition.
Good job. 다문화 국가라 이제 앙상블이 참 솔직히 처음에는 기대하기 어려웠는데 이렇게 끝나고 나니까 이제 희열감도 느끼고 이제 다음 공연이 더 기대가 되죠.
It was good. I think overall it was even better than the rehearsal. I think.
Yes,
maybe because there were audience. So full house, many people. The musicians are very excited. So we performed our best. So better than rehearsal.
Thank you, Korea. Thank you so much. Wonderful, lovely concert. Thank you. We love you, Korea.
And thus, the successful opening of the traditional music orchestra. A beautiful day in May on Jeju Island. Two months after their successful performance, the 80 instrumentalists came back to Korea. As they meet for the second time this year, the air is filled with familiarity.
안녕하세요. 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 만나서 반갑습니다.
The rehearsal begins with a Vietnamese piece. This performance contains 11 pieces of music composed by each represented country. Each piece is organized by the composer of the piece. The scores were previously sent to the performers, but this was the first time they rehearsed as one.
I would like to introduce more about Vietnamese, so that's why I put some more Vietnamese style and Vietnamese scale in my composition. I would like to show to the people that how beautiful is the Vietnamese melody. I mean, it's very soft and very fantasy. That's why I use the name is Fantasy Vietnam.
The main conductor, Kim Song-guk, and the co-chairman, Park Bom-hun, decide to check out the orchestra as a whole. That's because this massive project simply cannot proceed with only a single person's view and opinion. More than anything, Asian traditional music is based more on feeling than rules. So the musical score may restrict some of the performers. It is therefore imperative that the performers understand each song's traditions, as well as bringing them all in unity. The next piece is from the Philippines, a vocal and orchestral piece.
And so, but this song is really, is joyous because there's traveling there. There's the nostalgia to see family and friends, and you know, so it's a joyous journey. So they go hi la 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 hi insi na insi sali duma ay orte.
The piece was written with a joyous vibe in mind, but the performance didn't reflect it. It seemed like the fast tempo of the piece may be too much for some instruments.
The upper note is the piri. The P is the lower.
An emergency meeting takes place to solve this problem. It's worth noting that the composer herself has never experienced an orchestra of 50 traditional instruments playing her piece. The difficulty also lies in the performers, since Asian music is all about rhythm and feel. It's difficult to master the piece if the performers are unable to relate to the country's traditions. But these problems have to be somehow overcome through practice after practice.
너무 빠른 기간이라 너무 시간의 여유가 없어서 작곡자들이 다 악기 자체를 아직 다 이해하지 못한 상태에서 서로 모자른 부분을 서로 그러니까 연주하면서 알려주게 됐어요. 그래서 이 부분이 너무 튄다 싶으면 그런 부분은 이 부분은 아닌 것 같다. 서로 알려줘가면서 모자란 부분을 채우고.
연습을 충분히 안 해온 것 같아요.
The first rehearsal proved that the orchestra still had a long way to go. The composers' meeting took place to find a solution to this chaos.
너무 복잡하면 악기를 좀 연주를 좀 줄이기도 하고 악기를 좀 빼기도 하고 이런 작업을 내일부터 좀 어느 정도 연습이 된 뒤에 그 작업을 좀 했으면 좋겠다고. Thank you. Okay.
The meeting concluded with the composers promising to work closely as a united front.
서로 악기의 음도 그렇고 그 악기가 음량 크기도 그렇고 생각했던 것보다 너무 크고 너무 작고 옆에 소리가 한국 태평소 소리가 귀에서 들리니까 저 인도네시아 악기는 들리지도 않기도 하고 뭐 그런 서로 다른 점이 오늘 발견돼서 다른 점이 발견돼야 이제 그걸 서로 맞춰가고 키 큰 거 줄이고 작은 거 키우고 해서 딱 맞추면 될 것 같아요. 오늘 좀 당황스럽지만 지금 뭐 연습하고 나니까 좀 괜찮을 것 같아요.
The entire beginning till the end.
Oh, yes.
How long?
About 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
6 minutes?
These unexpected events can be quite burdensome to a conductor. It's a must for the composer and the conductor to be in tune with the changes of the song, followed by the performers. The composer is zoned in on editing his piece despite the chaos. It's now time to communicate the changes. The conductor communicates through his conducting, and the performers follow the score. But in order to quickly understand the changes, the conductor must yell out the changes to the corresponding performers. That's because if once an instrument misses the beat or falls behind, the whole point of this orchestra becomes moot. The performers are aware of this, and that's why they focus on each and every note.
I think it's unique to every instrument, actually. They produce different sounds, different kind of tonal textures. So I believe that those are not a problem at all, actually. At the end of the day, because this is the first practice, so when the orchestra is more settled down, I'm sure everybody will improve over time and find the right position to play.
Aloysius Suwardi, the Indonesian composer, feels that this orchestra offers a special experience. Indonesia is well known for preserving their traditional music. And at the forefront of this is gamelan, a world-renowned percussion-based performance that is very distinctive in its character. Suwardi's main goal also used to be that of keeping with musical tradition.
Could you please back to the dum, and I want you 50. Cut. Yeah, cut, and then till I get to the 62.
But as he experienced the orchestra for the first time, discovering a new world of music, he's been eager to apply these changes to his music.
Yeah, for the traditional music, we have our own musical score, so very different from Western score. But in this time, we prepare or to study how to read it and how to write it. So the preparation is very, very hard because they are not used to with the reading in the Western score.
On the other side, a Singaporean traditional instrument called the Dian Shang is being recalibrated. It's a woodwind instrument that contains 32 pipes. But after performing with the orchestra, it was determined that the sound needs to be retuned.
He's tuning the sheng. Yeah, because one of the note is a little bit sharper, so he's tuning the sheng to bring the note lower. You can see the wax he's adding, the red one. And he's adding on to the metal reed over there. So the more red wax there is, the heavier. So the vibration of the reed is slower. So you have a lower pitch.
The performers and their instruments are learning to adapt to new settings. The performers, who were worn out from endless rehearsals, were given a break. So, what's their first impression of Jeju Island?
I just slept here, so I don't see anything. Probably I can tell it later when I see outside there. I think it's beautiful outside there.
I love you very much. I love Korea very much.
When was the last time they experienced freedom like this?
One more.
That's when they began bringing out their cameras to start taking pictures.
Baby, one more time. Oh, pretty girl, yeah.
It's lovely to be free. Look, very nice actually. This is wonderful seacoast, wonderful rocks. Very nice to see. Just enjoying it very much.
Feel free like a bird. So feel happy.
The performers enjoy a fun-filled free time, posing as travelers. As they leave the beach behind, the performers knew it was time for them to head back. The ASEAN Korea Traditional Orchestra's inaugural performance is in 4 days.
자, 그러면 악기 빨리 세팅하세요.
So please see this one and check your position. Okay?
First line, second line.
First step.
The stage is chaotic with countless instruments being placed in their spots. As the chaos ensues on stage, this man is busy backstage calibrating the control board. He's the sound director.
지금 저기 마이크 위치만 정확히 지켜주세요. 너무 가깝게나 멀게 하지 않도록 주의해 주시고요.
His work is paramount in the success of this performance.
그 아시아 11개국 그 전통 악기들을 다 모아다 놓고 어떤 하모니를 만들어낸다는 그 음악을 만들어낸다는 게 개인적으로 참 상당히 어떤 의문점도 많이 가지고 있었는데 지난번 그 3월에 구로에서 첫 번째 리허설 겸 첫 번째 공연을 하면서 어떤 가능성을 사실 봤었거든요.
Since the performance does not take place in a proper performing theater, the director has to take everything into account, including the music stand.
조정을 할 수 있어야 된다고 최하로 낮춰서도 조금은 이거 이상 더 안 내려가서
근데 저기서 더 내려갈 수 있게끔 만들게요. 그리고 높이는 올라갈 수 있어요. 전체를 다요. 국립극장이다 그러면 이건 문제될 게 아무것도 없어요. 근데 여기가 워낙 시설이 공연장 시설이 안 돼 있는 데다가 이런 오케스트라를 공연을 하다 보니까 뭐 무대도 새롭게 다 만들어야 되고요. 그다음에 조명도 여기 있는 조명을 못 쓰니까 또 조명도 다 가져와야 되고 그다음에 또 뭐 마이크도 마찬가지고.
Even the introduction of the composer for the next song is a cause for concern.
You would just play gambos and then when it's your turn.
거기서 나와도 괜찮아. 그게 재밌다고. 오케이. 그게 재밌다고. 그러면 악기 가져가지 말라고. 악기 가지고. 그리고 끝나고 여긴 들어가라고 그래.
The Brunei piece is derived from a folk dance music played for celebratory purposes. The composer enters the stage dancing to the pulsating beat, which is meant to draw a cultural connection with the audience.
ASEAN countries as diversity, but we are all ASEAN as unity, or ASEAN as unity within which there are many countries that is diversity. That is principle that is reflected in our program that we are rehearsing now, that we are performing now, and we will perform on the 31st and June 4th.
Meanwhile, the rehearsal for the choral pieces were hurriedly taking place. Unlike the instrumentalists, the vocalists arrived just before the performance, and this ensemble piece requires them to master 11 languages.
이분들이 저 브루나이, 뭐 인도네시아, 또 싱가포르, 저분은 싱가포르 아이돌 가수래요. 그러니까 그런 식으로 해서 이제 같이 러브 아시안이라는 노래를 지금 연습하고 있는 거예요. Como está kayo, mahal kita. 여기 숨을 쉬면 안 돼. Como está kayo, mahal kita. 까만. 어떻게? 오케이. Como está mahal kita, Philippines. 까마스타 뭐 어떻게?
저게
발음이 안 돼?
그쪽 그게 아니래요. 그런 억양이 아니래요.
안녕하세요, 사랑합니다라는 말을 자기 나라 말로 이렇게 곡을 10개국 말로 돌아가면서 이렇게 합창하고 하는 거거든요. 근데 이제 이분들이 그 전통 민요를 하시는 분들이라 이제 작곡한 노래하고 이게 좀 잘 안 맞아요. 그래서 지금 이제 연습 같이 하고 있어요.
The lyrics are very simple, but the intonation and the beats are proving to be hard to master in a short time.
내가 이렇게 하는데 더 있을게.
The non-stop series of rehearsals continued, with the performers working hard to make this a smooth ensemble. The time for the actual performance is now creeping near. The time has come, with Jeju Island housing the representatives of 11 ASEAN countries for the summit. In the meantime, the orchestra is busy preparing themselves for the performance that night.
그러니까 이거는 맘 먹고 지금 세팅을 하는 거잖아요. 그러니까 이거는 내년 정도에는 아예 워크숍도 하고 그러니까 여름 한 달 정도에.
Even the Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism drops by to offer a word of encouragement. Backstage, the performers are busy dressing up in their traditional costumes.
Happy birthday, ASEAN! Happy birthday, ASEAN!
This was the day they had been waiting for. The performers gathered together to celebrate the orchestra's first birthday, wishing for a flawless performance.
Thank you, Korea. Thank you. 사랑해요. 고맙습니다.
서양 오케스트라에 비해서 아시아 오케스트라는 저는 거의 알려지지 않은 쪽인데 이렇게 새롭게 이제 시작해서 우리 아시아의 음악과 함께 이 동양적인 아름다움을 이제 한국에서 좀 많이 만들어낸다라는 이런 기쁨 또 자부심.
심정은 약간 긴장되는 것도 있고요. 그다음에 드디어 한-아세안 전통음악 오케스트라가 창단되는 지금 이 순간인데 아무쪼록 별탈 없이 연주회가 성황리에 잘 끝났으면 좋겠습니다.
As time goes by, the theater is packed with the eager audience in anticipation of the performance.
지금 대한민국의
Soon, the 11 representatives of the ASEAN countries take their seats.
모두 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. 오늘 이 자리는 아세안 가족이 함께 모여 한-아세안 특별정상회의 개최를 축하하고 더불어 소리로 음악으로 우리 모두가 한 가족임을 확인하는 매우 뜻깊은 자리가 될 것입니다.
The triangle signals the start of the performance. The tingling spreads through the theater, followed by the beautiful sound of the string instruments. And now, with 80 performers from 11 countries producing a united sound with their traditional instruments, the stage becomes one with music. A heartwarming harmony of unity. This beautiful performance that signals the reincarnation of traditional Asian music is now in full display. And now, the musical pieces of each country that is represented on stage. First off, the choral and orchestral piece from the Philippines. Followed by Singaporean music, which displays a surprisingly familiar set of melodies for the Asian audience. Then, it's a unique piece from Laos, using intriguing instruments to perform a distinctively Asian rhythm. Followed by a head-bobbing rhythmic piece from Malaysia. And with the joyous Brunei piece that presented both the singers and dancers, the conductor got on stage dancing to the beat, eliminating the barrier between the audience and the performers. And the grandiose final piece, accompanied by the vocalists. It's a vocal piece called Love Asia, written to convey the love for Asia in multiple languages.
Apa kabar? Aku cinta padamu, Singapore.
Apa kabar? Aku cinta padamu, Indonesia.
평소에 들어보지 못했던 소리, 그리고 정말 이 아시아인들의 뿌리 깊은 역사 속에서 발현된 어떤 예술 세계가 창출된 것 같아서 아주 큰 감동받았습니다.
I think all I can say is that we are all very happy because we were worried for many days. Certain weak parts, certain strong parts, whether the whole show can be put together. It has come together.
그다음에 2012년에 저희가 광주의 아시아 문화 전당이 이제 개관을 하도록 돼 있기 때문에 이제 거기에 아주 중요한 하나의 이제 오케스트라 또는 콘텐츠의 역할을 이 아세안 오케스트라가 하게 될 겁니다. 그래서 이제 지속적으로 매년 연주를 할 거고요. 또 이제 아시아 여러 나라를 다니면서 순회 연주도 할 예정입니다.
The instrumentals turn into an orchestra, which turned into a choral and orchestral piece, engulfing the theater like a happy virus. This historic opening of the orchestra wasn't limited to Korea and Asia. This was the genesis for the union of nations as one. As the stage is filled with cries of Love Asia, here's hoping that the message gets spread not only in Asia, but all across the globe.
Apa kabar aku cinta padamu?